and welcome back. We're going off next to Elland Road. Leeds United boss Jesse Marsch had a feeling of déjà vu after his side conceded early and had a player sent off in their 3-0 defeat by Chelsea. It keeps them in the relegation zone. So Chelsea are just 1 point away from confirming Champions League football for next season, or if Tottenham fail to beat Arsenal in the North London derby, then Chelsea will qualify for the Champions League. We'll come to both those points later on. A word on Leeds, though, and the relegation battle. It's not that long ago, April the 20th, when they were 8 points clear of the bottom three, and now it's not looking good for them.
It's not, no. I mean, a lot of people questioned it when they changed the manager, but fair, Jesse Marsch come in. That new manager bounce, but the last 3 performances just haven't gone with them at all. Just haven't looked like the Leeds. They revert back to type when they're struggling. So don't stick to a game plan. But also, when you can see goals early as well, you don't ever give yourself a chance in any game. So, and with the needless red cards as well, they're playing against Arsenal. They're doing quite well. They're going to 10 men. And then Dan James in this game against Chelsea, horrific challenge. Never giving themselves a chance. And when you're down there at the bottom, you need calm heads. You need everyone to know exactly what they're doing, know their roles, and they've all got to be pulling in the same direction. And unfortunately, right now, their form's probably deserted them and their kind of team ethics at the wrong time.
You look at the bottom of the table and the goal difference is so poor for Leeds United. You feel like they're going to need an extra point just to make sure of being in the mix at the end of the season. And that there are 2 issues. One is conceding all those goals, and the other one, as Darren said, is discipline. You can look at the Ayling red card or the James red card and perhaps point to end of season relegation battle frustration, but it's 97 yellow cards over the season as well, 3 red cards in total. Do you think that there is an issue more widely with discipline at Leeds?
I think they're just committed, aren't they? You know, they used to play that 1-for-1, so you go up and that's probably the committed one there. But
this is just tipped over into, yeah.
I think you're right, Kelly. That's just more of the case of Dan James, the circumstances, the relegation battle that they're in. And it was a reckless challenge, really. And what now is they lose him now for the next couple of games. So you need your players. You're already probably low on injuries. You need your star players, in essence, the players that are going to make something happen, creativity, and you haven't got them available now.
Do you know what it is? It's pressure. I've been there at the bottom of the table. It's awful. When you get into this part of the season and you see teams around you getting results, you were so far clear of the bottom 3 and then the people have clawed you back. You just don't know how to get out of it. So you start doing things that are against your nature, your character, like Dan James flying to a tackle there, Luke Ayling forgetting where he is and that wild 2-footed challenge. You just start doing things that are just not usually what you usually do. You start playing differently, you start panicking a little bit, you take a few more risks, and that's all that's going on at Leeds. They just don't know how to put a performance in to get the 3 points because, as I said, it's the worst thing in the world. And I said, I've been there. When you walk off the pitch, you check your phone, you check the scores, and you see Everton have won, Burnley have picked up a point. It's demoralising. You know that Watford and Norwich have gone, but when you just can't seem to get that momentum to get out of that relegation zone, you just start doing things like that. And you see Dan James, he's got up and he's gone, what have I done? He probably doesn't even know how bad the challenge is until he's probably watched the replay. So they've got to somehow get cool heads. They're like to Liam Cooper, Calvin Phillips. These guys are going to be vital. They've been at the club a long time. They've been at times where they're going for promotion. They've been there where things are going well. They've got to try and calm everyone else down. Even the manager, he doesn't know how to do it because he's never been in that scenario either. So you need to lean on the guys that have been there for a long time and go, come on, everyone, calm down. Whether you put the manager out of it, you get everyone at training, you sit in the room and you go, everyone, listen, we just need to calm down, relax. There's still points there. We can still do it. But at the minute, they're not helping themselves. And that's why you've seen the red cards and the decisions that they're making.
And even with someone like Liam Cooper coming back in, and we saw in the game against Manchester City the difference that his absence made to their ability to defend set pieces, and in particular his organisation, his leadership was hugely missed in that. He comes back in, but there's no Luke Ayling because he's out to the end of the season because he gets sent off.
Yeah, as Karen referenced there, it's basically as if kind of they plug one hole and then 2 appear elsewhere. And on top of the absence, I suppose, there's also the kind of the overall effect of the season where like players are weary. I mean, it's a rough time if you need that extra bit of energy.
And they're running further under Jesse Marsch than they were even under Marcelo Bielsa.
Yeah. I mean, and you'd wonder actually as well whether, I mean, you talk about the new manager bounce there, but obviously there's a bit of an emotional element to that. But then once the physical reality hits, where you're actually adapting to a new style, whether that kind of then causes a bit of a lull. And it's interesting the way this kind of relegation battle has gone, because it almost feels like it's worked in stages. First of all, Leeds actually had their burst when Marsch first came in. As I said, they went 8 points clear.
Well, you say that, except that in comparable games under
yeah.
Marcelo Bielsa in the reverse fixtures, they were actually a point worse off in those games in which they were on that good run of form.
Yeah, true, absolutely. But I suppose the key being that it was a little spell where they got those results. It looked like they were good.
Momentum.
Yeah. Then Burnley have it. Now Everton, you would say they have it. Yeah. And it might just kind of set it for these last two games, but we'll see. I mean, given the way it's gone, I mean, suddenly Burnley dropped off against Villa. Everton, even with Everton, Lampard's added a lot of resilience, to be fair.
They've got the toughest run in.
That's exactly it, yeah. That's it. I suppose they might be hoping maybe that Arsenal are already in the Champions League by next Sunday, but then you can't exactly bank on that, can you?
No, and even if they were, there perhaps is a quality difference that might come into play between Everton and Arsenal on the last day of the season. But it's and they're away from Goodison Park, where we felt the emotion and how much that has actually carried those Everton players through. And it's interesting because it feels like you were talking about Leeds and the pressure of being at the bottom, and they met the team bus last night, the Leeds fans, but it can sometimes have a negative impact. You know, I was listening to some of the post-match interviews, and it was Mason Mount saying that Leeds atmosphere, we loved coming into it because it's hostile and we were driven by that. So it doesn't always work in your favour. It has worked for Everton in the home games at Goodison Park. It hasn't necessarily worked for Leeds in the same way.
No, but it almost looked like Chelsea enjoyed playing that hostile. We know the rivalry between the two clubs going back years. I think it's the 70s.
But you wouldn't expect people it's back to the 1970 FA Cup final, which was tasty. And I think it's that thing of, you wouldn't expect necessarily the younger players or players who aren't English to necessarily know about that history, but they learnt about it last
Of course,
night.
and I think you can kind of feel it, even if, as you said, they're not old enough, but I think you'd feel it going into the stadium, the reception that the Chelsea fans would get from the Leeds fans, even from the warm-up. But as I said, they probably would have used that home advantage, Leeds, if they hadn't gone one down so early. But when you go get one down against a side who are as good as Chelsea are, it's very, very hard to combat, because then you're then chasing the game, and then Dan James does that moment of madness, and then you're again on the back foot again. It's so difficult. So that's where you need calm heads. And even again, probably their best player this season, you would say, is Rafinha. You look at him against Arsenal, he nearly got himself sent off because he is too caught up in the emotions. Somehow someone in that dressing room has got to find a way of calming everyone down and saying, listen, we've got 2 games left. I think they go Brighton and Brentford. I think their next 2 leads are. Yeah. Someone's got to find a way of calming it down, because if they can win both of them, it's going to be tough, but that's 6 points. That will give them a massive opportunity to get themselves out of it. Yeah,
the other issue is playing players out of position. You mentioned Rafinha there. He played at right wing back for the second half against Manchester City. And it's City, but he played at right wing back last night against Chelsea as well. At this stage of the season, you've been in this, at this stage of the season, and we see the players sort of defaulting to the sort of Bielsa days when they're under pressure. But do you not just play, and injuries and absences, etc., but do you not want to see players playing in their usual positions, just because when you are taking a split second longer maybe to make a decision, you want it to be automatic?
You do, but it's a difficult one, because Rafinha, we know how good he's been this season going forward, but obviously Dallas with the injury, it was a horrific injury, he's going to be out for some time. I guess it's Jesse Marsch. In this scenario, you don't want to lean on the youth, because the youth, by putting someone, say, a right wing back from the youth team into that system, into that kind of pressure cooker, that doesn't really do their development any good, because obviously they panic, they worry. So I guess it is then trying to fill these holes with players that necessarily don't play in that position. But again, that then comes back down to the board, because in January, you've got a small squad, you didn't recruit anyone. That comes back on them, and someone should have gone in and said, listen, we've got injuries, we've been missing Patrick Bamford all season, we've had a number of injuries, Calvin Phillips was out, Liam Cooper was out. Go and bring in 2 or 3 more bodies just to help, even if they're not going to be starters, but they've got Premier League experience and they know what they're doing. The fact they didn't bring anyone else in, that's probably why they find themselves in this position as well.
Yeah, and they are in a very precarious position. When we looked at the run-in and the fixtures there, as much as we can say Everton might have the most dangerous run-in, Leeds look like they're all over the place. And so with the games that they have against Brighton, against Brentford, and at Brentford as well, for the last game of what's been a fantastic debut season for them in the Premier League, it's going to be buoyant there. They're going to be on the front foot. They are not easy games either.
No, not at all. And also, I think the most worrying thing is, because I remember literally 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, or at least 3 games ago, sorry, I remember thinking the biggest worry for Frank Lampard's Everton was basically that you couldn't see where their performances were coming from. They looked in disarray. Where Leeds at least had a little bit of even in the game against Manchester City, as we were talking about earlier, it felt like there was a bit of conviction about them.
1-0 down. They were causing some trouble.
Yeah, and now that's completely dissipated. Exactly the wrong moment. And can you recover that in 2 games? I mean, it's very hard to see. But then I suppose the story of this relegation battle has been, it felt like it's been kind of 3 or 4, as I mentioned, about kind of shifts in momentum, but it's been 3 or 4 turning points at key season, and maybe we'll see another with 2 games to go. But right now it seems it's all going in one direction.
Although you say that, but then it felt as though Everton had the momentum, and then they went to Watford, and there was a high expectation with Watford already being relegated and having conceded as many goals as they have, that Everton might be able to get a vital win against them. But they were held to a 0-0 draw. Here's what Frank Lampard said.
Yeah, if you can't win, you shouldn't lose at this stage of the season. It's very important for us. They didn't give us any problems defensively, really. No shots on our goal. We had some opportunities, but not enough really good opportunities. I thought we were a bit tense maybe in our game off the back of 2 really big results. Maybe we were expected to come here and win. Maybe a little bit of tiredness from the players from playing at Leicester. So we want our best, but I thought we were the better team. But we take the point, and we know what we have coming up. You just have to keep working. I came in here in mid-season, and we were not in a good place in terms of the form and maybe the confidence of the players. And we started well, and then we've had some tough times, particularly away from home. That's been the big thing. At Goodison, we've been in fantastic form since I've been in. Away from home, we haven't picked up points. And I suppose that's the good thing about looking at the last 2 games. We play at Leicester, play here and pick up 4 points. You need to do that through the season from start to finish. So we've kept working. We're improving as a team. The players are more confident. They're understanding what they're capable of. And we need to keep showing that.
They do need to keep showing it, and it was a flat performance for Everton against Watford, and not the right time of the season. But as he said, if you're not going to lose the game, if you're not going to win the game, you might as well not lose the game. And there were opportunities, not necessarily too many of them, and not necessarily clear-cut chances, as you would say. Look, these are the highlights.
Telling we're talking over the highlights rather than trying to package.
we didn't cut it with the commentary, but that was a really good reflexive save as well. But look, in terms of what's coming for Everton, you feel like the teams at the bottom can afford a draw, because the teams around them are going to drop points as well. This isn't the same as Liverpool drawing against Tottenham the other night. It doesn't feel like 2 points lost. It can feel like a point gained, because you're looking at the teams around you. And while they're still there, while Everton still have the game in hand, it can still it can halt the momentum without tipping it back the other way, maybe.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know. I'm trying to predict. I've got no idea.
No, but listen, I think Frank kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think it's important not to get beat.
Yeah.
I mean, just keep picking up points. And sometimes them games, because a lot of people always say they've got nothing to play for Watford, they've already gone down. Sometimes they're the most difficult, because you get players there, the likes of Sarr, Emmanuel Dennis, players of this calibre, that are playing for moves. So they're looking to do something, so they can cause you problems. But the fact that they didn't go, and it was a flat performance, there weren't really too many chances, as you saw from the highlights, a lot of shots from distance that were kind of flying over the crossbar. They do pick up another point, which takes them a point away from the bottom 3, so I think it was a good point for them. Yeah.
Because you think that Everton don't have the toughest running, do you, of the 3?
No, I don't. I think they're, we've spoken about them being at home, but I actually think theirs are in a good. I think Brentford... Leeds have still got to play them. Crystal Palace and Brighton are on probably the same levels in terms of what you're going to go for. But I think both of them are at home, Everton. And I think you could go into it. You don't want to go to Arsenal, because look at their squads and the form that they're in. But their Arsenal season could already be done in terms of where they are in terms of Champions League.
And if Everton win those 2 home games, which they're more than capable of doing with all that energy behind them, they're on 42 points, and it would look like they would be all right with that. But
even if they weren't, and say they only got 3 points, you go into Arsenal and their season's done, at least you're playing a team that have got probably nothing, and maybe none of their players will be like Watford looking for a move because you want to stay at Arsenal. So I think Burnley won't want to play Tottenham, Aston Villa. Steven Gerrard's players, for me, they're all on trial for him, because he's thinking, I've got a lot of money next season, I've got to make changes. I knew I came in, I don't want to work with some of these players, some I do, and Newcastle are just like rolling and flying. So I actually think Everton have got the better.
It's been like this since we had all those mega graphics of the last 10 games of the season for everybody. When you look at the top of the table, you go, do you know what? It's difficult to pinpoint where they're going to drop points. When you look at the bottom, it's harder to predict because you're going, they could win these games, but they could drop points absolutely anywhere. And that's why they're at the bottom of the table. And you could make a case for every single one of those games being difficult or being easy as in the run into the end of the season. Who knows what's going to happen next, but we will be keeping a very close eye on it.